it's another Gettin Real with Ashleydawn, and I wasn't going to film one, but me and my mom, say hi.
Hello.
We're having a good conversation, and I was like, hold up, I need to film this because first of all, it's blessing me. Second of all, it could bless somebody else. So to like fill you in on where we've been talking about expecting you from people. For instance, my name's Ashleydawn, Gettin Real with Ashleydawn. And so a lot of times I expect me from people. Like, I have a big heart. So when dealing with people, I expect them to have a big heart. I really care about respecting other people. So when I talk to other people, I expect them to respect me, and it doesn't happen that way. And so we were just talking about how it's so easy to expect us from other people. And we were talking about how, you know, my mom said that, what did you just say?
Everybody has their own self. If everybody was the same, God made us all different. If He made us all the same, what kind of life would that be?
Right.
All Ashleydawn. Okay, come on now. If there was all Ashleydawn's, we know. Okay.
That's funny.
But like we were also talking about me going to a church.
Yes, we were talking about churches. That's how this started. Because I was saying, when I was a little girl, I always went to church by myself. Every house that I ever lived at, my neighbor was an usher in a church. And so, and my mom would take me to church with her. And so, if anybody was going to church, I wanted to go. If my friends were going to church, I wanted to go. If my neighbor was going to church, I wanted to go. I always wanted to be at church with God. And a lot of times my parents didn't want to go. Sometimes you guys would, like on Easter or Christmas.
On holidays or special occasions.
Or if I was like in a play or singing or doing something special, they would come to watch me if I was doing Heaven's Gates, Hell's Flames or something like that. But for the most part, I went to church by myself. And we were just talking about the different churches that I went to. My parents would come to support me, but they didn't love it. So that's what we're talking about too. Like, I expected them to come, and then while they were there, I expected them to love it as much as I did.
But that's not the case.
Right.
Because when we went to the one church...
Do you want to be on it?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes. When we went to the one church, I felt judged.
Yeah.
Just walking in.
Yeah.
And that made me uncomfortable. I know who I am. I know who I am with God. So I'm not there to impress anybody. But just the way when I walked in, it was very uncomfortable. The next church, which you didn't mind me going, you loved that I went.
Yeah.
But because of the flashing strobe lights and the fog smoky stuff,
Yeah.
that bothered me. But in Ashleydawn's eyes, she didn't see that.
I was just excited you were there. I mean, I did see that it was bothering you, and that's why I offered you my sunglasses. But I thought you were like, woo, this is awesome.
Yeah, you thought like I was at a rock concert back in the day.
But also, like, you smoke cigarettes, and a lot of time, you know, you feel uncomfortable at places like that because maybe other people don't smoke cigarettes. And maybe, I know that a lot of churches have schools and they're tobacco-free zones. And so if you do smoke, you can't even like go outside to smoke. You have to like go off the property to smoke. And if that's something that you do, I'm not advocating that. I'm not telling you to do that. But if that is something that you're currently doing and maybe you don't see a problem with it, maybe you've tried to quit and you just can't, that's between you and God. But I'm just stating that it's an issue for some. Like, I've went to Disney with some of my friends, and you can't smoke at Disney. And so they're like, what do? I have to leave the park to go smoke? And yeah, that's what they have to do. But I'm just saying, you know, there's a lot of different factors. And we were talking about one of my friends who has ADD and how it's very difficult for them to focus. And, you know, if you're in a church service for 3 hours, it's very difficult for you to focus in those 3 hours on what's being said, especially if it's being said in a way that you don't understand, like maybe in Old English, or maybe it's the King James Version, or maybe it's even older. And if you can't understand something and you're listening to it for, hours on end, it's kind of like the Charlie Brown teacher, right?
Yeah.
Wah, 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 wah. Like,
Yeah, I got it.
so.
But, as we were saying, let's stay on the key here. The key part was being yourself and not expecting people to be like you.
Right.
Because God made us all different for a reason.
Right.
And that was our focus, is not being somebody else.
Well, and accepting people as they are.
Yes.
Without expecting them to change into what we want them to be. Like,
right.
Embracing people, flaws and all. Because essentially that's how we're showing the love of Jesus, because Jesus embraces us, flaws and all.
Well, we're all flawed. We all have flaws.
And so if we're like, oh, you got to be perfect, you got to be like this.
You have to wear that.
You have to wear a flannel shirt. If you do not wear a flannel shirt, I'm not going to be able to
correspond with you,
sit next to you,
communicate with you.
And you're like, I hate flannel. I don't want to wear a flannel shirt.
Well, you know what?
Right.
That's not God's way.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm glad you came in that t-shirt. It's awesome.
But, and the thing too that we have to understand is, like, not everybody has had the same life experiences as we have. Not everybody understands at the same level that we understand at. There's a lot of different people that lived a lot of different lives. And so when you kind of put your expectations on them.
Well, there's some people that never even went to church.
Right.
They don't know who God is.
Right.
They don't even, because they can't see him, they don't believe that he's there. But it's like a lot of other things, I'm thinking where I was going with that.
Well, like Daddy used to say, religion is a guy sitting in church going through the motions, I'm at church thinking about fishing. A relationship is being on a boat out fishing, thinking and talking and spending time with God. And that's the difference. And Daddy was just saying, God cares more about you spending time with him than he does you checking something off so that people can say, oh, look at you, you're so godly.
Oh, you went to church today.
Right. Because honestly, some people are going to church and they're not listening to anything.
No, they're there just to mark it off their list.
They're there to, when somebody asks them what they did today, for them to say church. Some people, tithe and give money just so they can say they did. Right. And God doesn't care about that. He cares about your heart. You can do all the things in the world, but he keeps caring about your heart. One of my friends, Colby, shout out Colby, how are you? He watches a lot of my videos, and he commented on my last one about, you don't have to have a Harley to ride with Jesus. And he was saying, God cares about our heart, and you can still be a Christ follower. You can still love Jesus if maybe you don't read your Bible as much as you know you should, or maybe you don't go to church as much as you maybe know you should. And he was just saying, like, so often we look at people and we judge them, and really we have no authority to judge anybody. That's God's job.
Yeah.
We're supposed to love. It says they'll know you by the love that you have for one another. And so he was basically saying that a lot of time there's people that are going to church that inside, have horrible hearts, are so far away from God, it's not even funny, but they go to church every weekend, and then there are people that maybe don't go to church every weekend, maybe, don't read their Bible all the time, but they like have a genuine love for God, and they talk to him and they spend time with him. I was talking to another one of my friends, Jay, and he was saying that he was talking to God. He wasn't at church. He was, out in the middle of a field just talking to God. And I think there's so much beauty in that when we just talk to God, right? Like you and I are just having a conversation right now.
Right.
And we're just talking. There's so much value in that. It's like, for instance, say you were just riding in the car with me. Can you put that behind it, like gently, please? Perfect.
Okay.
Because it did that.
So
way.
Go ahead, continue.
Like if you were just riding in the car with me
and not speaking,
right?
Uh-huh.
That would essentially be like you going to church,
right?
Like you're there, but I can't hear you,
right?
We're not conversing. You're just there. But whereas when we're talking, I can hear you, I can see you, I can look at you. You can, whoa, dude, stay in your lane, Mr. Man. you can experience, like we can talk about what we see. Maybe, you know, there's a tree over there, there's a tower over there, whatever. But we're having an experience together. We're sharing in this car ride together. We're sharing our stories together. I'm getting to hear your heart, you're getting to hear mine, and we're growing closer together.
Right.
Whereas if you were just sitting in the car, like, you're there, but are you? You'd probably be, you know, and that's another thing. Like, if you're not talking to me, maybe you're playing on your phone. Maybe you're looking out the window, thinking about something else. Okay, let's do this. So you're in a relationship with somebody, right?
Yeah.
And you're in a car with them, and you could be holding their hand. You want to hold hands?
There we go.
You could be holding hands, you know, and talking and singing songs together, and just and really enjoying each other's company, right? And you just love them so much. Or you can be with your head out the window thinking about somebody else.
Oh.
This is Getting Real with Ashleydawn.
Well, hopefully it's with Jesus.
Can I be real?
Yeah.
I've done that before. Like, I've been in a relationship with somebody, and like, it's been so terrible and awful. Well, okay, I'll just be real because you guys already know, but my ex-husband, like, when we got married, obviously I didn't know who he was, and upon getting to know him, it was like living in hell. Like, I mean, my closest version to it, but it was a nightmare. And I just remember sitting in the car with him, praying that God would, like, grab me out of the car, and looking out the window and just praying that God would take me out of that situation, and just really not wanting to be there.
Right.
Like, with all of my heart, wanting to be as far away from...
Instead of holding that hand.
Right. Wanting to be as far away from him as I possibly could be. And I just think that, you know, I try to connect my life with things in the Bible to make them understandable. But, like, when I'm with you, or when I'm with Daddy, and yes, it's not a romantic relationship.
Right.
It's a motherly father. But there is nothing more valuable than for me to spend time with the two of you.
Right.
It's like my treasure. It's my gold. I long for it. I treasure. I hold on to every second that I'm given. Mm-hmm. That's the difference. It's like wanting to be somewhere versus not wanting to be there.
Somewhere. Right.
And I just think about, like, your heart. Like, when you're in church, do you, like, want to be there with all of your heart? Are you just so happy to be in the presence of God? Is the presence of God there? Do you feel it? And then, you know, or are you at church and you're miserable, and you're, like, looking at your clock, looking at your phone, maybe playing on your phone, maybe thinking, like, gosh, when is this going to be over? Like, can this pastor just
how much longer?
Can it just be over?
Like, okay, he said enough.
Right. That's the difference.
Or
like, where's your heart?
There absorbing what he's saying?
Yeah.
And
wanting more, even.
And not even looking at the clock, going, oh man, what a word. Like, and like, that's a word, and you're so in tune to it. Like, for example, last Sunday I was at home watching church online, and a shout out to Freedom Church up in South Carolina.
Whoop, whoop.
Pastor Sean up there was saying a good word, and I didn't want it to end. I wanted to still listen. I still wanted to hear, and then it stopped. But it was a good word. Excuse me, it was a good word.
You okay? Do you need water?
So it was good. I mean, did I get a lot out of it? Yes, I did.
And you were at home. You weren't even there.
I was at home.
Right.
But I felt like I was there with them. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah, it's your heart. Where's your heart at?
You know, like you were saying, about people going to church on Sunday and those that don't. Mm-hmm. Well, there's some people that don't go to church, but during that day on Sunday, they're helping someone fix a flat tire on the side of the road. They're giving somebody a meal that didn't have a meal.
They're being the church, right?
You know, they're going out and doing the things. And, you know, instead of sitting in the church listening to the pastor, they're actually doing works of God.
Right.
You know, some people, it's too much for them to go to church. You know, I shouldn't say too much. It's just, it's their weekend. It's their only time off from work.
But the argument with that would be, like, if you say, oh, it's my, you know, my only day off. And I get it, because listen, I work a ton, and literally Sunday is the only day that I'm not doing something. And a lot of times I'm at church pretty much most of the day, and then I have like 3 hours just to myself. And so,
and still that's with God.
Right. But it's your heart. Like,
Right.
Are you going to God? If you want to. You don't have to want to. You can do your own thing. God
Right.
doesn't force himself on you. But if you want a relationship with God, there should be nothing that stands in your way of having it.
Right.
A building shouldn't stand in your way. Like, if anything, we've learned that from COVID. Like, something can change in a blink of an eye, and that building's closed. Are you still going to God? Or are you relying on a pastor or a person,
Right.
you know, to read the Bible to you?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you reading the Bible?
Well, in that case, they can always...
There's audio Bible.
Yes, there's an app you can get, and they can read it to you.
But I'm just saying, are you depending on somebody else for your relationship with God?
Or are you doing the
or
relationship?
Or do you have it yourself?
Right. Are you seeking that relationship with Him?
Like, I think one of the strongest things that I have, growing up, you know, I went to all different kinds of schools, and I had all different kinds of friends. And my friends that grew up in Christian homes, for the most part, I watched them fall off.
Right.
Like, I watched them turn away from God. I watched them stop walking with the Lord. Not all of them, but some of them I did.
Right.
You know, and I looked at that and I'm like, how are they doing this? Like, they know the Word of God. They grew up in church. How are they doing this? And I realized that their faith was their parents' faith. They didn't have their own. And the reason, not to say that I'm better or worse, because I am jacked up. I sin every day. God is working on me. Listen,
you're a work in progress.
I am a big old work in progress. I'm like, saw a meme the other day, and it was like, be like I-75. Always be under construction, and don't care who it inconveniences. Like, because I-75,
Right.
They're always doing construction.
I got you.
But I realized that the reason, like, when I went through the divorce, when I went through the betrayal, when I went through the nightmare of my life, even when I went through losing Daddy, I had my own faith. I didn't have to rely on somebody else's, you know. And a lot of time, people in church, they are, not everyone, but some people are dependent on the pastor's faith. And so when the pastor does something god awful, you know, like you see in the TV, you know,
Right.
when priests touch a child, or when they do something wrong, or when somebody turns their back on the church, or maybe a pastor has a pornography addiction and his life completely unravels, or maybe he has an
Right.
affair, or something happens outside of the character that, you know, the pastor
to be
or to have or to say or to do. A lot of time that, like, wrecks the church, and then a lot of people fall away from God because they trusted this person,
right.
and this person failed. They put this person on a pedestal, and that person failed. And I tell people all the time, like, if you put me on a pedestal, you're going to be let down, because I'm going to fail.
Yeah.
Like, the other day, this is getting real, so I'm just going to be real.
Get real.
The other day, yesterday actually, me and a couple people from church went to lunch, and we're sitting at this table, and this girl behind me kept, like, shoving her back, like slamming her back on the booth. And, like, it happened a couple times, and I was like, okay, maybe she doesn't know. But then it got to a point where it was happening so much, I knew
You got irritated.
Well, I was very irritated. I wanted to turn around and punch her in the face. I'm just being real. Not proud of that, but I'm just being real. But it got to a point after, like, 2 hours of her continually doing it,
Right.
and sometimes slamming more than others, that I realized, okay, she's doing this on purpose.
Right.
Like, she sees this table of, you know, 4 pretty girls, and she might be a little insecure,
Right.
and she's trying to be mean because she was with guys, so I'm
Right.
sure she was trying to impress them, you know, like, they were
Yeah.
probably looking over at the table because, you know, my friends are pretty.
Y'all are pretty.
And they were probably looking over and being like, oh, those are pretty girls. And so she was probably trying to get attention, being like, oh, look at me. Look,
Uh-huh.
I've seen it
Look,
before.
I'm smacking her.
Right. I've seen it before, and it's ugly, but insecurity is ugly. Anyway, so it happened a few times. Well, I went to the bathroom, and I came back, and I sat down. And when I went to lean back, she slammed the booth harder than she had in the hour and a half. She, like, slammed her entire body weight. And she was not a little girl. Like, she's a bigger girl. probably 3 times the size of me. So she slammed her weight up against the bench. And I snapped around my little head. It was like, excuse me, can you stop? And she's like, you slammed it first. I was like, no, actually, you've been slamming it for the last hour and a half. And I just sat down because I just got out of the bathroom.
Right.
And then she said whatever, and that was the end of it. But she wasn't slamming it as much. She was still trying to do it and trying to be sassy, but she wasn't doing it as much. But I'm just being real. I wanted to punch her in the face so bad.
I would have.
Like I did. And if it wasn't for Jesus, man, I probably would have.
Well, I'm being real too.
But that's the,
I would have.
But that's the thing. No, you wouldn't have. But that's the thing, is where is your heart? My heart wasn't in a good place. My heart was not thinking of showing her the love of Jesus. My heart was thinking about showing her the wrath of Ashleydawn so that she would stop slamming her back up against me.
Right.
Where's your heart? Right? If you put all your identity, your faith in me, clearly I just failed at a sushi restaurant.
Right.
Like, I'm not perfect. I'm trying to hit people at a sushi restaurant because they're slamming their back up against me. Like, that's the point. You can't put your faith in somebody else. Like, I can encourage you, and I hope that I do. I can point you to Jesus, and I hope that I do. But at no point can I carry you.
Nope.
At no point can I be Jesus for you. I posted a thing yesterday, and it was a picture of 2 people with batteries. And there's one person, and they have 3 bars on their battery, and their hand's out. They need more. And there's another person, and their battery is completely empty. And the last part of their battery they're handing it to the person that has 3 bars on their battery. Right? A lot of time, that's what we do. We give of ourselves to where there's nothing to give anymore. And then we get mad because somebody took advantage of us. We allowed them to. Like, we get mad when somebody fails in their faith and we say, oh, they let me down. Well, you allowed them to let you down. The only person you need to be going to for your identity, for your purpose, for your worth is Jesus. He's never going to fail. He's never going to let you down.
And he's always there.
Right. And so, the veil was torn in the Holy of Holies. You don't have to go to a priest to talk to God. You don't have to go into a confessional booth to be forgiven for your sins. All you have to do is open your mouth and start talking to Jesus and ask him for forgiveness from the depths of your heart, from the, from the love in your heart. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to have it perfect. You just have to go to God with a heart that's surrendered and say, God, I'm sorry. I'm messed up. Maybe, you and your boyfriend have been trying not to have sex and you slipped up and you had sex. Maybe you've been trying not to look at pornography on the computer and you slipped up and you accidentally clicked that link that you weren't supposed to click. Maybe, you've been walking in sobriety for a long time and something bad happened and you picked up a bottle again. Maybe you haven't done drugs for a long time and you were with those friends and you used again. God forgives you, for one. All you have to do is tell him you're sorry and then repent, turn from it and say, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore. If God has spoken to your heart that you're not supposed to do something, talk to him about it. And I'm not saying that it's going to be easy. It's going to be very, very hard. And I'm not saying if you're like, well, Ashleydawn, I love Jesus, but I'm in a relationship and I love my boyfriend and we have sex and that's something that we're okay with. Listen, I'm not God. I can't tell you what to do or what not to do.
You're not a judge.
I'm not your judge. I can encourage you and I can tell you what the Bible says, but at the end of the day, your relationship with God is between you and God.
It's personal.
It's personal. And so don't look to me for your relationship with God. Don't look to me for approval for the things that you are or are not doing. Look to God. There's a book that I read and it's God on a Harley. And I've mentioned it a couple times on my videos, but I really, really love it. And it's a story about a girl who has a really twisted idea of who God is. She doesn't really know who God is, and life has just hurt her, and she's believed things about God that are not true. And so in the story, he gives her her own commandments because the 10 commandments she just doesn't understand. So he makes her own commandments. And the book is basically to say, like, stop putting God in a box and thinking that God is this, one way, because God is not one certain way. He's not. He is bigger than your mind can even fathom him to be. And so when you get out of that mindset, and you get out of the mindset of, well, I have to be sitting in church wearing this outfit, writing in this journal with this pen, reading out of this version of Bible, it's very legalistic, and it's very like check, check, check. Like you have this list that you're just checking off a list, instead of a relationship that you're just trying to get to know. Like, have you ever been in a relationship and you just want to know, like you want to be a student of the other person? You just want to know all their favorite things. You want to know all their favorite music. Maybe you listen to their playlists.
You want to know history of them
on Spotify or Pandora, and you just want to hear their favorite songs. You want to know their history. Like there's a song by Brett Eldredge, it's The Long Way, and he talks about he wants to learn everything there is to know about the woman that he loves. We should be like that with Jesus. We should want to know everything that we can know about the man who laid his life down to prove his love for us. And I know for guys watching, that's hard to understand, because you're like, okay, hold up. So I'm a guy, and you want me to believe that there's this love affair with another guy, but I'm supposed to be with a woman? Like, what? It's a different kind of love. It's a fatherly love. It's a covering love. And so often, I think one of the hardest things for us in this generation and in, this time is when we hear the word love, a lot of us equate that with romantic love. A lot of us equate a relationship, and we immediately think of sex. We immediately think of, intimacy on a sexual level. We immediately think of kissing, whatever, when we talk about love or a relationship, when there are lots of different kinds of love. There's a friendship love, there's agape love, there's, the love of God, there's philos, there's
all kinds
there's all these different kinds of love. It's like in the Hebrew language, when you search the Hebrew language, there could be one word that means 100 different things.
Right.
But it's one word. And love is one of those words that it's one word, but it has a plethora of meanings. It doesn't just mean a relationship or an intimate relationship or, sex or romance. There's all different kinds of love. And the love that I'm talking about that Jesus has for us is a sacrificial love. It's a protecting love. It's the love of a father protecting his child. Have you ever seen an animal protect its child?
Oh yeah, lots of times.
Not all animals, because some animals eat their own children. But for certain animals, protect their young. I believe lions protect their young.
There's a lot of animals that protect them.
Anyway, there's animals that literally will. I just keep thinking of Lion King, and I don't know how factual it is, because it's Disney. But in my head, I'm just thinking about
they protect their young.
Mufasa, and protecting Simba.
They protect their young.
Right. Oh, is that an eagle? No.
Just like some.
It's a hawk.
Just like some parentals, the father watches over the children while the mother is resting or going to get food. Sometimes
Are you talking about animals, or are you talking about people? Because you said parentals.
The father does.
Like of people? Father of people? Or
no, of the animals.
Okay, because you said parentals. Why did you say that?
No.
Anyway, I'm talking about a fatherly love. I'm talking about a sacrificing love. I'm talking about a protecting love. Like if harm was coming your way,
I'd be in front of you.
Right. And that's my point, that a lot of time we hear love and we think, oh, it's romantic love. And for guys, oh, get out of the road, get out of the road now!
Oh.
I didn't want to hit it.
I know, but you don't have to scream.
I literally thought it was going to run out in front of my car and I would have cried. It's a little squirrel. It's really cute. Anyway, focus. So, what was I talking about?
Talking about fatherly love.
Oh, fatherly love. A lot of times guys are like, okay, Ashleydawn, you want me to be in love with Jesus and how is this happening? No. He is a father, and he wants to show you what that love looks like, the love of a father, like a blanket to somebody who's cold. It's very, very different. But I do know that a lot of guys have a hard time understanding falling in love with Jesus because of that. Because they're like, hold up, so you want me to love Jesus?
And then you have people that haven't had a fatherly love.
Yeah, that's another one.
On their own.
That their dad wasn't there. Yeah.
Let alone a godly father.
Yeah.
Like.
And when we say godly, we're not talking perfect. We're talking humble,
yes,
kind, integrity, respect, gentleness, faithfulness. What is it? Peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness.
Yeah.
Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness. Yeah, like the fruits of the Spirit. We're talking about a man who is laying his life down for his family and exhibiting the fruits of the Spirit. I don't know. I was thinking that too. The first time I was like,
what are they waiting
I don't
on?
know. Oh.
Oh, wait a minute.
What do
you can go. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
so now you're going to go right there.
I don't know why.
We need to pray for them.
There's nobody coming. Maybe they were just being extra safe.
Yeah.
Extremely safe. Extremely. Maybe they could hear our video and they just wanted to listen to it a little bit more.
I was going to say, maybe they're watching.
So, my big thing, the takeaway from this whole conversation is...
Be yourself.
Be yourself. Allow other people to be themselves. Do not put expectations on people to be you. Because you're you. You don't need another one. And let them be them. They're going to fall. They're going to mess up. Like, I look at my childhood. You never made me be perfect. You encouraged me, but you let me fall on my face.
I let you do what you needed to do so you can grow.
Yeah. And so if you're a parent, don't have such, don't have your child under your finger, because in everything that I've seen, people rebel. And kids tend to do the opposite of what, is being put and pressured on them. And I look at me and you guys had rules, but there was also a lot of freedom in that for me to make my own choices.
Right. Well, we always said your choices that you make, you have consequences for.
Right.
That was up to you to choose what you wanted to do or not do. And learn from the mistakes you made.
Right.
And grow from what you've learned and understood.
Yeah. Good stuff. Don't try to make other people be you. You be you. Love people where they are and how they are and as they are. Because that's how God loves you. He doesn't ask you to clean yourself up. He doesn't ask you to be something you ain't. He just wants your heart. And he just wants you. And so when you have people in your life, just love them. Just love them. Anything else, Mom?
Not that I could think of right now, except you are celebrated, you are beautiful, and you are loved.
You are seen, you are celebrated, and you are loved.
Okay, that was it. You are seen. Well.
You are very special. You are loved even in your sin. You are loved even in your shame.
And you're not alone.
You're not. God doesn't want you to wear sin, and he doesn't want you to wear shame. They're ill-fitting. They weren't created for you. And he has all the forgiveness that you could ever need in the palm of his hand. He's just waiting on you to ask for it.
If you ever feel alone,
yeah,
you're not. There's others that have gone through what you're going through, or have gone through what you're going through, or maybe you can bless them before they go through it.
Yeah. We all have a testimony, and our testimonies are meant to help each other and to show each other that we're all human, and we all miss it, and we all fall short.
And we all are flawed.
Yeah.
We're all a work in progress. We're that construction on I-75.
Yep. I hope y'all have enjoyed it. I've enjoyed talking to you, Mama.
I've enjoyed it too.
Love you.
I love you too. Friend.
Okay, y'all. Have a great day. We love you, and we'll catch you in our next one.